Julie, hello Anne. Welcome to Barre, everyone. Play your own music if you like. I will be teaching without music so that I can verbally cue. We have our chair. If you have a table instead or anything stable, that'll work. And then we have our mats. Later on, I'm going to be using cans of beans because that's all I got for some upper body work, but you don't need it. My beans are only a pound. So you don't need dumbbells at all. You can do arm strength. Let's go ahead and start with our warm up. Taking our heels together, toes apart to first position. Reach those arms to the side, lift the chest, draw the abdominals in, and then reach your right arm nice and high. Stretch, feel that bend in the side. Come back to center, realign that posture, and then take it to the other side. You can exhale here or inhale, whatever you prefer. Just try to breathe as you move. Let the breath flow in and out as your arms flow. I'm keeping my abdominals drawn in throughout. Just always want to provide that support for the lower back, and it helps maintain your posture. It's actually kind of hard to slouch when your abdominals are drawn in. Usually we slouch because our abdominals are nice and relaxed. Good, one more time here. We'll come into our plie. So bending the knees just a little bit, not shooting past the toes. The knees and toes will always align with each other. There isn't a moment in any exercise I ever do where the knee is facing one direction and the toes are facing another. It doesn't mean it can't happen, but I would never cue that intentionally. So when you need the chair, and you can use it at any time, even now, you're always going to place a few fingers on it as opposed to gripping the chair. All right, we're going to try not to give ourselves a reason to yank on that chair so we don't topple it and topple ourselves. We're going to go onto our heels to warm up the calves. So this might be a good time to use the chair. When you lift onto your toes, you can lift as high as you like. The heels will come apart. But you can lift 2 inches, you can lift 4 inches. It's really up to you. Let's continue to think about drawing our abdominals in, keeping the chest lifted. Our thigh muscles are nice and engaged as well. Let's try a combo of the plie into the heel raise. You can add some arm choreography if you like. Since we're not doing non-stop heel raises, I usually can let go of the chair for that one brief moment, but definitely feel okay by putting your hand on there. It is not wrong or you have bad balance if you use the chair. It's not what it's about. We always want to focus on the movement pattern. So if we're worried about falling, that takes away from that. That's why we want to use the bar. But if we had a real bar, like a bar bolted into the wall, there's actually so many more exercises you can do because it's bolted and you can pull on the wall with almost as much like your full body weight if you wanted. But we'll do what we can at home. Good, last one here. Well done. Let's take our feet into second position, which is not too much wider, maybe about shoulder distance apart. And we'll go into a few plies as well. This opens up the hip a little bit more. Again, knees and toes align in the same direction. The knees are not going to shoot past the toes. If you want to keep your shoulder muscles somewhat engaged, Whenever we lift our arms, it's always going to be slightly below our shoulder heights. Because the higher it gets, it starts to maybe create tension that we don't necessarily need. And let's add some of the heel raises. So we'll just go into the combination here. Good. At any point, you can get water. Not really going to stop the workout or anything, but I don't want you to feel like you can't stop. You can always modify these movements too. So you're going to go as low as you'd like into the squat, as high as you'd like into the heel raise. 2 more times. And last time. Good. So when we move to our chair, we're going to be moving the outside leg. That way we don't risk kicking it. We have our turnout still. So I'm just going to turn to the side for a brief moment. We're going to be sweeping our leg forward with the turnout. So notice my knees and toes are turned out to the corner still. And then I'm going to sweep it straight back with turnout. So if I didn't turn out my leg, you'd see that my kneecaps and toes are facing down. And if I didn't turn out going forward, my kneecaps and toes are facing up. So we're going to try to maintain that turnout. Let's just do a few practice ones. Forward and back. Abs stay engaged. A little hip flexor here. Squeeze the butt. Try to keep the chest lifted. So as I take my leg back, I'm going to eventually lift it, but I'm going to try not to drop my entire chest when I do that. Good. Not going to do arm choreography right now. Or I'm not going to worry about it during this section anyways. So let's start to provide some lift off the ground. So as high as you'd like. We're trying not to use momentum to kick it up. So use the strength of your leg muscles to lift as high as you can and keep the leg as straight as possible. Standing leg, have a slight softness to the knees. Just don't want it locked out here. Your foot has to probably flex a little bit as it sweeps underneath your hip. Okay, so our moving leg is going to feel certain muscles working, like our hip flexors here, our glutes here, but our standing leg, it's just stabilizing, so it's contracted, as long as your knee isn't locked out. So let's combo this a little bit. So we're going to do 2 plies, plie, plie, kick, or lift. Double plie to the back. Double plie to the front. So 2 pulses. So I'm staying low, and then back. And let me just show you from the side here. I try to keep my chest up as much as I can, my abdominals raised, especially when my leg goes back. Because what happens when my leg goes back is my whole body wants to arch and I want to relax my abdominals to give me more range of motion. But we don't necessarily want that more range of motion because it could put too much pressure on the lower back. We want range of motion in the hip joints and not so much in the spine. Double pulse and lift. So 2 more sets. And then we're going to keep our leg lifted to the front for some pulses. And then to the back for some pulses. And then we'll switch sides. All right, so double pulse to the front. Double pulse to the plie, sorry. And then now we're going to lift for 16. Turn out. So this is neutral. Turned out. 1, 2, 3. Think about lifting the arch and the inside of your leg toward the ceiling. Chest up. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Double pulse in the plie. Standing leg. Remember, stay soft. Soft right here as we lift and pulse to the back. You feel your butt. This helps with your balance. Do it. And 4, 3. Pulse to the front again. Plie, plie, and lift. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 8 more. Maintain that turnout. Targets the inner thighs a little bit more, that's why. So it's less about the quads, which are often overworked anyways. That's what we favor, as opposed to our inner thighs or our hamstrings or our glutes. Oops, I lost count. 4, 3, 2, 1. It's never a good idea when I lose count during pulses, right? All right, let's try the other side. I just find I just have to move my chair so I can keep facing you guys. But do whatever works. You need to turn around. We'll try to do exactly what we did on this side as we did on the other side. So soften the stable leg, the non-moving leg. Maintain the turnout of the outside leg. Tap forward, sweep it back. Keeping those abs braced, constantly breathing. Find the breathing pattern that works for you. All right, and then let's sweep it into the lift. Kind of slow down a little bit now that I'm lifting and increasing the range of motion. So your full range of motion is as high as your leg will go. All right, it's not to be compared to anyone else's range of motion. Definitely don't compare it to my range of motion. Once again, I'm just going to show the side view. You don't need to turn. See, even here, like I can see that I slightly tip a little bit forward. It's really hard to not tip. So if we think about not tipping, we'll tip less. Let's add the double plie. So plie, pulse for 2, and lift. And even like let your leg hang in the air for a moment to really squeeze those muscles. Plie adds a little bit more leg muscle work, right? We add that pulse in a bent knee position. It's not a huge increase in work. It almost kind of gives you the illusion that you have momentum as you come out of the pulse or out of the bounce to do the leg lift. Looking good. As I straighten that standing leg, remember it's going to stay soft. We're going to try not to lock out the knee. One more time to the front and one more time to the back. And then we're going to do our 16 pulses. So 16 lifts to the front. 1, 2, counting up to 8. And then counting down from 8, 8, 7. That seems more manageable than counting to 16. Which I can barely manage counting to 8. Double pulse to the back. Think about your abs, chest up. Squeeze that butt. Turn out for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Repeat to the front. Plie, plie, and lift. We think the arm swinging back will help counterbalance this. For some reason, the arm coming forward just feels good to me. And keep your arm here. Have your arm to the side, whatever works. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Don't worry too much about the exact number of pulses. And the reason why is because we're all probably pulsing at different rates anyways. So even if I count to 16, it could be around where you're doing 18 or where you're doing 12. So feel the muscle burn, feel that fatigue. And that's all good. You do want to feel that muscle burning, muscle working. 3, 2, and 1. All right, I'm gonna go back to the first side. So what does get pretty fatigued isn't just our moving leg, but our stabilizing leg. So if our stabilizing leg starts to get really fatigued, then it starts doing wonky things, or it has a tendency to lock out. We don't want that. So I give a break, and now we're gonna go back to the first side, standing leg again, this time in parallel. So parallel is exactly what it sounds like, feet in parallel, toes and kneecaps facing forward. This is neutral position. Try your best to stay in neutral. What happens as we go out to the side, to the immediate side, is that we want to turn out because it's easier, right? It forces our quads to want to do the work. We don't want our quads to do the work. We want to do our outer thighs. So as I lift my leg to the side, I'm going to really, if I look down, I'm going to see that my feet are still parallel to each other. Okay, and that's what you want to look at. Soft knees here. So lift. Oh, we're going to go into our mini squats. I could call this a plie too. Plie is just the ballet term squats, usually about a vertical spine and the turnouts, since they do almost everything in turnouts. Oh, I want to do the double pulse here too, just to keep with the theme, sorry. Double and lift. 2 and lift. Knees and toes are all facing forward. And again, check out your foot, parallel to each other. We don't want that toe lifting up and out. See that? And you can also feel the difference. You can feel the work in your outer thighs, your gluteus medius and minimus, as opposed to your quads and hip flexors. Good. I'm really starting to feel it in my standing leg too. It's no joke, the stabilizer. All right, let's lift it for 16 non-stop pulses out to the side. Think about the lift, lift, lift. Let me see your kneecaps and toes facing forward. 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm leaning a little bit, but I'm trying really hard not to lean. 16 more times. No, we have to do it on the same leg. We're not going forward and back this time. It's gonna feel like a little bit more work. So double pulse here, and then lift for 16. Abs tight, chest up. Checking for the parallel. Keeping my knees soft. 4, 3, 2, and 1. You should really feel it on the side here and not the front of the leg, which would be your quad or hip flexors. All right, this here is going to feel the same, right? Because it's a neutral, it's just the plie. It's what we've been doing on both sides. That's the thing that's happening on both sides. And then the outer leg is going to go out. So double pulse. I didn't really talk about this because I forgot to talk about it. But you can do this entire series without the chair, right? Like if you really want to work on your balance, could have done this whole thing without a chair. But the thing is, if you're wobbling too much or you're leaning too much to counterbalance the leg, then it's going to take away from the exercise. In that case, I would recommend using the chair because it helps you target the muscles that you want to target more effectively. Good, keeping that parallel. Double checking here, looking at my feet. And then knees and toes facing forward. Let's do that 16 pulse here, right here. Standing leg, soft. Abs in. I know I say all this, I sound like a repeating parrot, but it's just so much to think about. And sometimes when we're focusing on the pulsing, 4, 3, 2, 1, it's like, oh, I forgot about my leg. You just naturally locked down. I forgot about my abs, forgot about my chest, forgot about my posture. So I say to remind myself, and you as well. All right, last time. Just give ourselves a little break. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay. I guess I don't really need to move the chair. I'm going to go into a wide plie, like a wide squat. So this is what, 3 times. I mean, this is hip distance. So 1, 2, 3 times hip distance. Make sure you don't run into your chair here. This is our widest squats. The knees aren't going to shoot past the toes, but really the knees aren't going to go past the ankles. This is a really great hip opener. And if you think about it, knees tend to want to buckle in. So really push those knees out a little bit more than you think you have to. So that'll help keep it aligned with your toes. All right, now that we've set that up, chest up, abs nice and tight. We're going to add heel lifts, but 1 at a time. So as I lower down, I'm going to lift the right heel. It's going to create a little asymmetry, not too much. The heels go down as I stand. The other heel lifts as I lower. Good. If you need the chair, I would face the chair. Then place your hands right on the chair. Because sometimes our legs are so wide, if you have it on the side, you're kind of leaning to get to it. I'd rather have you symmetrical, which is why you want to face the chair. And since we're not kicking or lifting the leg, you won't kick the chair. You can do what you need to with your arms for balance. So obviously one knee is bending a little bit more, right? Than the knee where the heel is lifted. If this bothers your knees at all, don't bend as low and keep the heels on the ground. I am going to lift both heels, but you don't have to lift them high, and you definitely don't have to lift them at all. There's going to be a little greater balance challenge when both heels are lifted. Just watch out for that. So let's try lifting both heels as we squat. Good. Next, take your time. Don't take too much time because it's hard to hold it down there. You're doing it super slowly. Another option is you can go down with your heels down and do a quick lift at the bottom, put your heels down again and stand up. Okay, so that's another option. It's kind of changing up the timing of when you lift the heels. Good. Again, I'm choosing this exercise partly because of the hip opening aspect. And it really works your glutes and quads all at the same time. All right, we're going to do some pulses because that's what we all love in bar. I'm not going to pulse with my both heels off the ground. I'm going to pulse with one heel off the ground. And you can pulse with both heels on the ground if you like. So lifting just the right heel, we're going to pulse for 16. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. 8 more. You know you're feeling it. Abs tight, chest up. 4, 3, 2. Take a break. Here's our break. Just straightening the leg. We do 16 more pulses, and then I'm going to grab my canvas beans. So lift the left, pulse, staying loaded in the muscles, not standing up out of the squat. The break in the squat is when we straighten our legs. 8, 7, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Great. Shake out those legs. I'm going to get rid of my chair. I'm going to continue doing some leg work with the arms. But if your legs are tired, skip that part. So for instance, I'm going to do a plie and then a leg lift. That's just an example. You would just skip the plie and you would just do this part. Okay? All right, anyways, let's get started with our upper body. You don't need dumbbells, you don't need beans. If you aren't holding weight, I try not to do a clenched fist. You can have a nice, relaxed, laid hand and lift like this. Okay? So, setting up our symmetrical right and left, front and back side raise. General principles of weightlifting is posture, abdominals raised, chest lifted, back of the neck nice and long. Our joints are soft. So as I'm standing, I'm not locked out in the knees, and my elbows are not locked out. Okay, that creates unnecessary tension in our neck muscles, and it doesn't necessarily work the shoulder muscles any better to be locked down the elbows, and it stresses out the elbows. All right, so this is our full range motion for our side raise. If you've never done a side raise, this is a very descriptive exercise called raising our arms to the side. And we're gonna pulse it. So when we pulse, we're gonna pick the position where it's the most challenging. This is why you don't really need weights, right? Because the weight of your arm with gravity, holding it up against gravity, that creates challenge. Give me 8 more. Think about the lift, 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 lift. 4, 3, 2, and 1. We do a lot of repetitions, right? You notice in bar, but not with like a lot of extra weights. So I would never have you like pull 15 pounds and do this. Now my palms are going to be up. My palms are down before. My palms are up, right? Our rotators are working. And now we're going to come up and overhead. You don't need to smash your hands together or clap or slam the weights together. And then we're going to add some leg work, okay? If you need to turn out because it feels better for balance, which I think it does, it's hard to balance when you're fully in parallel. So I would say turn out your feet a little bit. And then we're going to do a leg lift alternating. So lift, return, lift, return. All right, go at your own pace. It's a little bit of a balance challenge. Feel the obliques, abdominals, and hip flexors work as well as your shoulders. See how I'm shifting? So my center of gravity is over the remaining leg on the ground. That's fine. It's not a lean. I'm shifting my weights. I'm still very vertical as opposed to this. That's the lean. Good. Oops, I almost lost my balance there. Now I'm intentionally thinking about just the hip flexors and pulling my thighs up, not really thinking about doing anything with my foot. But now watch, change the intention where you lift the leg and you intentionally place your toes in at the knees. By the way, if your arms are getting tired, great. But take a break with the arms if you need to, and then jump back in. Do some leg work. This is the upper body portion. But it's great to coordinate everything and add a little bit of lower body if you can. One more time on each side, so 2 more arm raises. Then we'll give our shoulders a break. Good, okay. So turning to the side, palms facing inward. I'm in a little squat position, so think about hip hinge. Push that butt back and down. Okay, maybe not down too much, but definitely back. You don't want to be like this, where the knees go forward. Back, and this helps you stabilize. You tilt your spine in about a 45-degree angle. Neutral spine, chest up, so that you can target your back muscles. Because if we're vertical, we're targeting our shoulders. In order to target the back, using weights against gravity, got to tip over. My feet are in parallel. This is what the front looks like. My elbows are lifting up and back, and they squeeze my shoulder blades toward each other. Good. If you'd like to add a little bit of legs to this, you can stay right here. Okay, just keep going like this. If you want to add a little legs and maybe a little balance, I'm going to take my front leg back. I'm going to take the leg that's closest to you guys to the back, and then my remaining leg is still in that same knee bent position. You can hold it here, by the way. This is one option. And the other option is a little lift. Okay, we'll just do 8 on this side and 8 on the other. If you feel like you're going to lose your balance, put the toe back down, keep it there. One more, and switch. Switch leg, that is. The arms keep going. The focus here is on the arms and the upper body, so we're going to be doing a lot of reps in the upper body, the switching legs and the lower body, so it's not, hopefully not too fatiguing for the legs anymore. We already did the leg work. Last one. Good. I'm going to change it up here. So instead of the palms facing in, the palms are facing for the knees, and we're going to go wide. See the difference? This is a regular row, wide row. Same thing. You can keep both feet in parallel. Row right here. Or you can step that one leg back. Lift. Brace the abs. So you don't feel any strain in that lower back, especially if you lift the leg. Keeping my head and neck aligned with the spine. Switch sides. So my IDs is, about 5 feet. I'm really bad at measuring distance. I try to imagine if I laid myself down on the floor, where would my head be? Because I'm 5 feet. So yeah, you're looking at about 4 to 5 feet ahead of your toes. Not straight in front of you and not down at your toes, right? You're looking at alignment. Last one. All right, so that's good for our posture muscles. Think about biceps here. Bending the elbows. You can come back to your neutral stance, soft knees, chest up. We're going to try to keep the wrist in neutral. Meaning if you're holding weights, one of the tendencies is that people sort of relax their wrist. You want to keep those forearm muscles also engaged. So I don't think I've ever met anyone where I say bicep curl and they're like, what is that? This is sort of the one exercise that almost everyone knows, even if they have never set foot in a gym. And maybe it's because everyone does a bicep curl in their day-to-day life. Like you're always going to lift something and you're going to bend your elbows to lift it, whether it's like a laundry basket, groceries, even me just picking up my chair, it's bicep curls. We just do that a lot. Do I do a lot of rows? No. Do I do a lot of push-up and chest presses? No, I don't. So I'm angling my arms up to the corners of the room right now, but we're going to change it up because, you have rotators. You allow your arms to rotate. We're going to pulse it in the middle, right? So for like shoulders, the high point is where it's most intense, and it's usually about parallel. So the most challenging position for biceps is when your forearms are parallel. So right where we are. One thing I like to do also is to squeeze my elbows in really tight to the body. The extra little squeeze engages your biceps and your lats a little bit more. But we're going to do that, keeping the wrist neutral. And I'm also going to try a non-squeezing version, just so you can sort of feel the difference. Very small range here. So let's start to take our elbows a little further from our body. What happens here is you do feel a little more shoulders. And depending on the person, you either will feel more or less biceps. You would think you would feel more biceps just because your elbow is no longer supported by your body. Sometimes because our elbows are squeezing in tight, you end up feeling more biceps. Yeah, we're going to bring our elbows back in. And now I'm going to have you just focus on rotating. The biceps stay isometrically contracted. So they're constantly engaged because your elbows are bent at 90 degrees. But now the focus is on your rotators. External rotation, internal. Moving out, away from the midline, in towards the midline. Out and in. Sort of evaluate yourself. You should be able to externally rotate both arms about the same place. I'm not coming all the way in for internal, so can't really judge that. But sometimes some people will notice that, like, I know this is my left arm, but some people notice that their right arm can go this far and their left arm can go this far. Like there's different, ranges of their rotation. And that sometimes comes from, it could come from an injury, but it comes from just overuse of one side. So just taking note, we do want our external rotators to be as equal. Well, we want everything to be equal. We want everything to be as symmetrical as possible, right? All right, we're gonna do our triceps. We're gonna get back into our bent over position. So I'm gonna lift the elbows. So this is similar to our lats, shoulder blades together, but our arms are gonna straighten and then bend, and that's it. So wherever your elbow height is right now, it should be maybe around shoulder height, maybe just a little bit under shoulder height. Try not to move the elbows in this position in space. Simply straighten the arms and then let the dumbbells or your fist go back towards the ground. So no need to pull it all the way to the shoulders because that's just another bicep curl, which I guess you could do. But the only reason I don't cue it is because what happens is when you increase the range of motion like that, where we're doing this, people start swinging their arms and it's not even, they're not even using their muscles anymore. They're using momentum. So when I do triceps, I like to focus really on the straightening and then intentionally lowering to where elbows are at 90 degrees, where basically gravity is taking control here. Gravity is not taking control here because you've lifted it back up against it. If that all makes sense or sounds too corny. All right, we're gonna pulse. So guess where the pulsing is? You think it's right here? Nope, it is up here. Slight bend, and just think of the straightening. Think of the up, up, up. I don't even have to cue the lowering or the slight bending because your body naturally wants to do that because it's really hard to keep your arms straight and lifted. So think about the up. Chest up, abs braced. 4, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, we just have enough time to do some abdominal work. Keeping in mind that we did keep our abdominals braced the whole time, so they were working, but probably not in the traditional way that you think about working abdominals. All right, so the crunch is the main spine flexion movement of our abs. And this is what a lot of people are familiar with. But there's so much more to abs than just the crunch. I would say that this is a very safe movement though. So if you are recovering from low back injuries or neck injuries, your head is supported, your neck is supported, your back is supported, and your feet are on the ground. So this is always a great starting point. And from here, you can add a ton of different variations. You can always keep the knees bent. You can always bring the feet back to the floor. I'm going to start to add some variations. So I'm reaching the back, I'm lifting the back leg, and this is my front arm. Okay, so I'm going to reach opposites. Over that knee. Both shoulder blades are still coming off the ground. Last one here. Switch sides. You don't have to rotate a lot to work the obliques. The slight rotation that we're doing right now, where the arm reaches across the opposite to the opposite kneecap, that's enough rotation. A lot of people rotate all the way here. It's too much. It's not needed. In fact, it takes away from the oblique work because now you're resting the shoulder blade on the floor. If you've taken classes with me, you hear me talk about that all the time. Okay, back to the first side. We're going to do our pulses. So pulse is when we're keeping the shoulder blades off the floor. So really working the abs. You keep your knees bent, or if you want, stretch your hamstring. This is a nice stretch. If you flex your foot, stretch the calves. All right, I'm going to be constantly reaching up. 16 of these. Up, up, lift, lift. Simultaneous hamstring stretch while we're doing our abs. 8, 7, 2, and 1. Oh, other side. If you keep your knees bent, that's fine. You can pulse like this, right? Yeah. So either point your toe or flex it. And pulse. Feel that both your shoulder blades are off the ground. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. So the reason I'm picking these exercises is because our abdominals have been stabilizing us in neutral this whole time. So I'm not picking any more neutral ab stabilizers intentionally. That's not to say that they aren't effective ab exercises either. Let's just do a few what we call abdominal stretches, but spine extensions. So this takes our spine in the opposite direction of what we just did. I'm gently pressing into the forearms. All right, don't worry about lifting too high, but you should feel your spine muscles also working. Don't put 100% of the pressure into the forearms. Let your spine do some lifting. So these exercises are all sort of stretch and strengthen one. When you lift legs to the front, you stretch your hamstring. When you lift legs to the back, it stretches your quads and hip flexors. We're going to do a few stretches, but we're not going to do a major stretch for everything since we've been kind of doing it throughout. All right, last one. Good, lift yourself up. Give yourself a little spine stretch here. I would like to do a plank. Plank is effective and great for your neutral spine, transverse abdominis, isometric hold. You can do it on your wrist or elbows. Go ahead and make that decision now. Either your wrist or elbows are directly underneath the shoulders. Reach the toe, the heels back, tuck the toes under. So when we're standing in neutral, right, when our body's in a straight vertical position, we do stabilize our abs. But when we're in a horizontal neutral position, our abs have to work harder to stabilize because gravity wants to pull our hips down. So either it's easier to have our butt up or to have our hips low. So try to find that one point where you feel your abdominals are working. Keep breathing. Where you feel your abs are working, squeeze your butt, squeeze your quads. Everything's stabilizing through the midsection. But you don't want to feel any strain in your lower back. Yeah, one more breath in and out. All right, we're gonna do 8 push-ups just to finish out our upper body and also sort of our abs. Push-ups are upper body and abs since we're generating a plank. So if you don't want to do push-ups on a plank, you can do it on your knees like this. All right, I'm gonna take my hands wide, wider than the mats. So again, here's an option to do a push-up. So you're bending your elbows to about 90 degrees. If you're doing push-ups on your knees, it looks like this. And if you're doing push-ups on your toes, it looks like that. We're going to do 8. Count and go as fast as you like, but don't go too fast. Inhale down, exhale up for 2, 3. Yes, focus on the plank if you're on your toes. If you're on your knees, focus on your arm. Last one. I think that was 8. Of course, I lost count. All right, I would like to stretch your arms here. So reaching your arm back. Grabbing that opposite leg for a quad stretch, finding your balance. If you have a wall nearby, go ahead and grab that wall and you can still do your chest stretch. Same stretch. You should feel it here, the flexor, quads, and then right here, the front of the shoulders and the chest. Take it to the other side. And you don't need the wall. If you simply reach back, you're opening up your chest. Great stretches to do If you're sitting at your desk, just reach your arms back. Hopefully you don't whack anybody or whack furniture. Now let's do a roll down. So from the side, imagine you're up against the wall, tuck your chin under, roll your spine down, away from the imaginary wall. Reach toward your toes, hang nice and heavy, feel the stretch, calves, hamstring, glute, lower back. And then finally your upper back. So if you're reaching toward the ground, again, imagine your arms weigh like 100 pounds each. It starts to pull downward. It separates your shoulder blades and that stretches that upper back area. Now slowly roll up. Here you can actually lock your knees down if you wanted to, just because we're stretching and not doing strengthening. Thank you so much for joining me. I want to be cognizant of our time if you need to get back to work. For those of us that have to work and only have an hour for lunch. Thank you so much for joining me.